Alright guys, we're currently swapping stuff over from my engine, I don't know if you can see it down there, onto the spare engine down there. And this is in preparation for it getting sent down to Abbey Motorsport. They're going to be building my engine, so I've swapped all the stuff on mine onto the spare one so that we can use the spare one to test fit stuff. I'm also going to be doing the external wastegate stuff for the other exhaust manifold in this video, and then I'll probably pretty much do it because both those things combined are going to take a while. What I'm doing first of all though is making some little blanking plates to put on my engine so that when it's getting sent down, because I'm not driving it down, it's getting sent on a pallet, like in a truck. So I want to just sort of cover all the ports and everything so that there's no shit going to get in there, especially when it's on the way back. Obviously it doesn't matter so much now because when it goes down there, they're going to take everything apart, probably clean it all out anyway. But on the way back, it would be nice to have some stuff just covering all the ports up so that we don't get any crap in there. They don't really need making, to be honest. I could just use tape. Like I think most people would just put tape over them. But I kind of just wanted a break from making like accurate, stressful stuff like the exhaust manifold. Just make some nice, simple, easy little blanking plates. Just a bit of a day off, I guess. So as you can see, I've swapped most of the stuff over from mine onto this spare engine. I've got all the fuel rails and the lower part of the intake and all that. Everything's on there, so this is pretty much good to go apart from the blanking plates, like I said. So I'm going to make some for the exhaust manifold ports, for this coolant port here, for these two coolant ports around the back. And for the intake ones, I have just used tape because they're at like a really awkward angle. I don't know if you can see. Like the bolt studs are at like a 45-degree angle to the actual port. So it would take a long time, a lot of effort to actually make some blanking plates that sit nicely on there and sort of seal against it. Oh, just smack the camera into the thing. So yeah, I've just used tape for them. And like I said, I could just use tape for the others, but fuck it, let's just make some stuff for the sake of it. Right, so we're just going to basically draw around the gaskets and then we get a good idea of where all the holes need to be and everything. For these big exhaust gasket ones, all we really need to know is where the holes are. And this pen is fucked. This doesn't have to be super accurate because I'm probably going to make the holes slightly wider than they need to be just to give me a bit of room for error, basically. Cool. So, if we cut that out, safety first. Ooh, I don't think it quite fits. Right, so it turned out this thing was not symmetrical. Like, I thought it could go on either way, but it can't. But yeah, it fits now. I've just cleaned it up with the flap disc and should be good to give it a quick bit of paint. Doesn't that look better than a bit of tape? Slightly, marginally. Right, now we need to do the thermostat one. It's gonna go like no. Try that again. Oh, this is. Why am I finding this so difficult? There we go, nailed it. All right, I've finished putting all the blanking plates on, got it onto this pallet and strapped it down as well as I can. Hopefully it's not going anywhere. Yeah, I've got all the blanking things on now. We've got the ones on the back here. The manifold, well, the exhaust port ones. And then this little one for the coolant thing over here. So yeah, this thing will be going tomorrow and we'll be putting that one in the car. Alright, the V-band that I was waiting for the exhaust manifold has turned up, as you can see. And we do have a slight issue, like I said before, that it's not the exact right size. Like this is the size of the exhaust manifold pipe that we want to go in here. And as you can probably see, there's a big gap around the edge. Like there's a lot of wiggle room in there. So what I've done is got an expander that goes from the size of this to a larger size and cut it down so that it stops at the point where it expands to the size of this. So if we put that in there, much less wiggle room. So that's what we're going to do to make this V-band fit this, because you can't get V-bands for this size pipe for some reason. So yeah, that's what we need to do. I'll show you where they're going to go on the car. Basically these straight sections are going to get cut out and the V-bands are going to go around there. Same on this side, we'll go somewhere in the middle on there. It kind of sucks having to cut these exhaust manifolds, especially this side, because I thought this side was completely done and I wasn't going to have to touch that anymore. But I think without doing this, it's going to be an absolute nightmare getting the turbos on and off, because getting to these bolt holes in here when the turbo's on there you can't get a spanner or a socket or anything into like this corner over here and stuff like that. So I think it's going to be for the best that we have an easier way to detach the turbos up here. Also on this side, and this is perhaps more important, I'm going to take this opportunity to change this a little bit so that it brings the turbo a bit higher. Like, because we've got room to go higher, like this exhaust manifold can go higher up. Because I'm not happy with how this turbo sits, like it's a little bit too low. Like this side is kind of borderline, like it'll do. This side, it's just a little bit too low, like for me to be comfortable with. So we're going to sort of angle it up a little bit more, get that a bit higher. But yeah, let's start cutting stuff up, fitting the V-bands, and see how we get on. Can't really show you it particularly well right now because it's still boiling hot, but you get the idea. That is what it looks like. Which I think, for me, is not that bad, but definitely some bits that could be improved as usual, but we're getting there. There we go, that is all done. More weird welding as usual, but whatever, it's stuck together. Hopefully it won't crack, time will tell. Okay, so after lots of trial and error, lots of time spent cutting and welding and scratching my head, this is what we've got. We've got the V-band flange on there, on the end of the manifold, with a couple of pie cuts to sort of point it upwards a bit to raise the height of the turbo. Then we've got this section, which is what the turbo is going to attach to, more pie cuts, and then the expander, that little section of the expander that goes into the V-band flange, and then the clamp to hold it together. I also had to die grind the inside of the expander down a bit. I don't know how well you can really see in there. But yeah, it was quite a lot thicker than the rest of the pipe, even though it's all schedule 10. I'm not sure why, but it was. So yeah, I've die grinded that down so it's not just like a thick lip for the air to hit. Now it's a bit more of a smooth transition. So yeah, expander, pie cuts, bend, more pie cuts, and then the bit that Walton Motorsport did for me going into the turbo flange. So there's a lot of work gone into just this like stupid little section that no one's even going to think anything of, but whatever. We'll put this on and then you'll see where it all sits. Right, so with the V-band on there, you can see this is what we end up with. And yeah, now we just need to put the turbo on. Right, she's on and looking good, looking good. The good thing about having a V-band is that I can sort of spin this around and rotate it as much as I want to get it in the perfect place. I think I'm pretty happy with this. We've got enough clearance on that side. The only area we haven't got much clearance is up there, between this bit of chassis and the sort of straight section there. So I think what I'm going to do is just hammer this back a little bit. Like, it's not important, that bit of chassis really, so we're going to hammer it a little bit and just get it out of the way a bit more. It looks a mess, let's be honest, compared to how it did, like compared to this side. That's just a nice straight bit of pipe into the bend. This is now like a big mess of pie cuts and welds and flanges and stuff. So yeah, it doesn't look great, but it makes it a million times easier. Like, can you imagine trying to do these bolts up in here? Like, this is why I did it, because you can't get this one around here, this one around this side, you can't get anything to that. So yeah, I'm glad that I've done it. I'm glad I've got the V-band. Will make life a lot easier. Right, so what we've got to do now is the external wastegate setup for this side. We've actually got a fair bit more room on this side because, for a start, we've not got to worry about the filler hole for the gearbox. And also because this turbo is sort of more over to the left, we've got a lot more space around here. The bit that I thought was going to be really awkward was actually sort of teeing off this main pipe here, because it's more sort of on an angle and like it's nearer to the curved bit than on the other side. That wasn't a very good explanation, but hopefully you know what I mean. So yeah, I thought it was going to be really awkward, but I don't think it's actually going to be too bad. If I grab this piece that I've already notched, which is going to be the piece that takes off the side here, put it on there, you get some idea. I mean, it's all very tight as usual, but it shouldn't be too bad to come around, have a few pie cuts, sort of bring it down this direction, and then have the wastegate somewhere around here. So this is what it's like with the wastegate on. We've got a fair amount of clearance either side, plenty of room around here. Pretty happy, to be honest, now with this side, like how high everything sits. A lot better than it was before. Obviously we've still got to make the screamer pipe, but that will just loop back and down here, so that's pretty straightforward. It's a lot higher as well, well not a lot, but noticeably higher than the other side. So I think when we redo this bit, we're going to chop this, do the same thing that we did on that side. We're going to chop this, put the V-band in there. I think we'll try and get this one a bit higher as well. I mean, for the wastegate, I could just chop this section here. That's easy enough. But the turbo as well could have been a little bit higher. So it's a good time to do that. But yeah, for now, I'm just going to make the screamer pipe for this side. And I don't know if I'll bother filming it because you've seen me cut and weld a million things already. So let's just cut to when it's done. Actually, I've changed my mind. We're not going to do the screamer pipe now. I'm going to leave that till quite late on, I think, because it doesn't really rely on anything else. It doesn't have to go around anything else. It's fairly easy to do. So I'm going to leave that as like one of the last things to do, because if, like, hopefully we don't have to move the turbos again, but if we do, then I'd have to remake the screamer pipe anyway. So we'll leave that to be one of the last things. One thing I have just sorted out is all the oil and water fittings. I'll show you. Right, this is one of those things that you would think would be really straightforward. Like, this isn't a weird, obscure turbo or anything. You'd think it'd be pretty easy to get all the fittings for it. But it turns out, especially because of the way that we've clocked it, and it kind of has to be clocked this way for it to fit on the car, because of the way it's clocked, it makes it really awkward for some of the fittings that people normally use to go in there because they'd hit this flange. But yeah, I've actually ended up having to combine parts from like 4 different suppliers, I think, to make this work. Like, I couldn't just get like a banjo bolt that was correct, because most of the banjo bolts that you get for turbos have a restrictor in them, and this turbo actually has a restrictor built in, so you don't want an additional restriction. So yeah, I've used like a banjo bolt from Hell Performance that didn't have a restrictor, then a banjo to 4AN adapter from a turbo kit, and then this 4AN 45-degree fitting from somewhere else, and then these water fittings were from Hell. And yeah, it's just a lot of mixing and matching of stuff to make it work. But I think we're finally in a position where it's all going to fit. So yeah, I think we'll end this video here. But before we do, I want to show you one other thing that I did yesterday, which was take all of the rear subframe out so that we can get to the fuel tank, because we're going to be getting rid of the stock fuel tank, replacing it with this lovely thing. I think I already showed you guys this, but yeah, very nicely made. I'll put a link in the description to the guys who made it. And yeah, we're going to be putting a new fuel tank in, basically, which means ripping this old lump out. Also, here's the rear subframe for anyone who's interested in seeing like a dirty old rear subframe. Yeah, that's what I've taken off the car. Last time it was off the car, I did start trying to sort of tidy it up and then got bored pretty quickly, so I probably won't even bother this time. We've got more important things to do, and we're running out of time. The reason I say we're running out of time is because originally the plan was to get this done by end of the year, basically. And it's now nearly December, and what have I done? I've got literally like 2 exhaust manifolds made, and they're not even finished yet. Like, that's it, that's all I've done. So yeah, it's kind of disappointing how long it's taking, but that's real life, do you know what I mean? Like, that's what happens. So especially the first time you do something like this, it's not like I've got a lot of experience, is it? So everything's taking longer than it would do for someone who actually knows what they're doing, obviously. But anyway, yeah, that is all I got done this week, so that's all I can show you, I'm afraid. Next week, or starting from now, I'm going to be doing the same thing on the other exhaust manifold, putting the V-band thing on, and then we'll be moving on to the intercooler and all the piping and all the fun and potential problems that brings. So yeah, that'll hopefully be part of the next video. Hopefully we'll get the V-band thing done fairly quickly, and then can start on the intercooler stuff in the next video. So yeah, I'll see you there.